Angel Reese arrested in massive WNBA match-fixing scandal. Breaking news from Chicago. WNBA player Angel Reese has been arrested in what officials are calling the biggest game-fixing scandal in league history. Federal agents entered her downtown apartment at dawn, escorting the Chicago Sky forward out in handcuffs as cameras rolled. The footage spread across TikTok and ESPN within minutes, sparking outrage nationwide. Headlines read, "Angel Reese arrested for rigging matches, career over." Main part. Sources close to the investigation confirmed that encrypted betting transactions had been traced back to her phone and 2 offshore accounts. Investigators say the data shows a clear pattern, game outcomes changing moments after suspicious online wagers were placed. The WNBA Integrity Unit responded instantly, announcing an emergency suspension and calling this a crisis of integrity for the league. For the Sky, it wasn't just a suspension, it was the collapse of their season, their image, and the myth of their biggest star. By mid-morning, the internet was flooded with old footage, the taunting gestures, the press conferences, the sound bites that aged badly. Every time Angel Reese pointed at her ring finger, every time she mocked Caitlin Clark after a three-pointer, every time she said, "They can't touch me," it was all back on replay. This wasn't just an arrest, it was a reckoning years in the making. For years, Angel Reese built her reputation in contrast. She wasn't Caitlin Clark, that was the point. Clark was clean, calm, the golden image of women's basketball. Reese was loud, physical, emotional, always in the headlines for the wrong reasons. That rivalry sold tickets. It sold out arenas. Their May 2025 game drew 2.2 million viewers, a record for the WNBA. Every camera framed it like a heavyweight fight. Clark's precision versus Reese aggression. Fans picked sides, and most didn't pick Reese. She was booed in arenas outside Chicago, criticized for her attitude, and painted by the media as the jealous antagonist in Clark's story. But behind the highlight reels, something darker was unfolding. Analysts now believe that rivalry became an obsession. Reese didn't just want to beat Clark, she wanted to humiliate her. Investigators say that mindset spilled into gameplay decisions that didn't make sense, strange substitutions, missed rebounds, and turnovers that flipped the odds mid-game. The Chicago Sky didn't just lose, they collapsed in moments that looked too perfectly timed. Leaked footage from a Sky Fever matchup now sits at the center of the investigation. It shows Reese calling a timeout seconds before a betting swing. During that pause, her team lost momentum and Clark's Fever came back from a 9-point deficit. The betting spread flipped almost instantly. Fans thought it was bad coaching. Prosecutors now call it evidence. Every suspicious game had the same pattern: a timeout, a substitution, a slow collapse, and a financial surge for someone offshore. Data analysts working with betting regulators started to see something impossible to ignore. 12 games, same quarter, same minute markers. Identical spikes in online wagers minutes before the Sky's timeouts. Those bets weren't random fans, they were large, coordinated amounts placed through crypto intermediaries. The names behind them traced back to newly opened accounts in Belize and Antigua, both linked to devices registered to Reese known contacts. Inside the league office, the alarm went off when an audit team noticed those repeated timeouts in the game logs. Fourth quarters that slowed down just when odds were shifting. Every single one involved Reese. Even her substitutions were synchronized, benching herself during critical possessions, forcing the Sky's defense to break down. At first, analysts thought it was fatigue or strategy. Then came the messages. Investigators found private group chats with labels like Code Blue and Freeze Q4. They weren't team strategies, they were signals, instructions. Code Blue meant slow the game. Freeze Q4 meant kill momentum. The same phrases appeared in Reese text history during those 12 games. One teammate told investigators that she'd whisper the code on the bench, then demand a timeout seconds later. Another said Reese warned them not to question clock calls. 2 players eventually came forward, both current Sky teammates. They confirmed strange instructions during huddles. One described being told to miss a rebound intentionally, to let the shot clock do the work. Another recalled her demanding a foul to stop the rhythm. Those accounts matched the footage frame by frame. The evidence now points to a single pattern. Every manipulated moment happened during games against Caitlin Clark's team. Every suspicious timeout, every betting swing, every shift in pace. When the Sky faced anyone else, the data was clean. But the Fever games? They were chaos. Clark's fans always said Reese couldn't stand her success, that she hated seeing another player become the face of the league. Investigators now say that jealousy became motive. The financial trail makes the case undeniable. Betting transactions placed minutes before those matchups paid out over $1 million combined. Every dollar matched a timeline tied directly to Respawn court actions. The league's analysts, who had once praised her rebounding instincts, now study her mistakes as deliberate. They replay those late-game turnovers, the unnecessary fouls, the empty fast breaks, and everyone looks staged. Sports media can't stop replaying the moment it all started, that rivalry game in May 2025. Reese had just fouled Clark, then looked straight at the camera and laughed. At the time, it was just trash talk. Now it's being treated as the first public crack in the facade. Her aggression, her constant need to outshine, her resentment toward Clark's growing fame, it all led to this. The league's investigation calls this an integrity breach driven by rivalry. Not money, not power, but envy. Angel Reese's entire brand, the rebel, the villain, the player who never bowed to the crowd, has imploded overnight. What started as a battle for attention between two stars has turned into the biggest scandal women's basketball has ever seen. The footage of that early morning arrest still loops on social media. Every platform, every feed, every sports show plays the same 20-second clip. Angel Reese, wrists cuffed, walking toward the flashing lights. The woman who once fought for dominance on the court now fights to explain how a rivalry turned into a criminal investigation. The courtroom was silent. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but every reporter outside had their phones ready. After weeks of headlines, leaks, and speculation, Angel Reese finally faced the charges that ended her career and rewrote the image of the WNBA. Prosecutors said the motive was never just money. It was revenge. The story they told wasn't about greed. It was about obsession, a rivalry that turned personal, then poisonous. The prosecution opened with text messages pulled from Reese's deleted phone backups. Screenshots flashed on monitors inside the courtroom. They showed her mocking Caitlin Clark, calling her the media princess, and bragging that she would teach her a lesson on live TV. One message to a close friend read, "Watch what happens when she tries me next time." The audience gasped when a voice note was played. In it, Reese's voice sounded bitter and tired. "Everyone loves her no matter what I do," she said. "They'll finally see the truth when I'm done." The tone, the resentment, the words, they became the centerpiece of the trial. Prosecutors painted the picture of a player who felt overshadowed. They argued that every rigged possession, every late substitution, wasn't random, it was payback. They presented a financial trail that stretched beyond basketball. Bank records showed $3.2 million moving through accounts linked to a cousin in Belize. The timing matched the betting spikes tied to Sky Fever games. Investigators confirmed that those transfers were routed through crypto wallets created just days before the games in question. The numbers told a story even Reese couldn't explain away. Her defense tried to claim it was all coincidence, that she was being targeted because of her personality, because of how much people disliked her. They said the texts were taken out of context, that the money was family investment money. But every argument fell flat once the prosecutors played the voice notes. The jury heard her voice, her words, and her tone, angry, jealous, consumed. She wasn't talking about basketball anymore, she was talking about Caitlin Clark. 6 days later, the verdict came. Guilty on all charges. The judge called it a violation of the game's soul. The decision spread faster than any final buzzer Reese had ever heard. Within minutes, the news alert hit every phone in America. ESPN cut its regular programming to go live outside the courthouse. Angel Reese, once the face of the Chicago Sky, was now the face of betrayal. The fallout came like an avalanche. Within 24 hours, Nike dropped her. Gatorade and Tissot followed next. Combined, those sponsorships had been worth $5.7 million. Every advertisement, every commercial spot featuring her face was pulled off air. Her posters came down from billboards across Chicago. The same companies that once praised her resilience now deleted her name from their websites. Inside the league, the damage was immediate. The Chicago Sky lost 40% of their season ticket renewals. Merchandise sales dropped by half. Fans demanded refunds, sponsors backed out, and press conferences turned into interrogations. The team's head coach resigned mid-season, saying the environment had become unworkable. Reporters swarmed teammates for reactions. None of them had answers. Some still defended her. Others admitted they felt betrayed. The locker room that once called her a leader was now split between silence and regret. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark's name only grew bigger. Her game sold out in record time. Her team's ratings jumped by 27%. She didn't say a word about the scandal. No interviews, no statements, no public comment. That silence turned her into the league's symbol of clean basketball. Media outlets called her the reset button of the WNBA. She became what Reese always wanted to be, the center of gravity. The difference was, she earned it without touching the odds. Sports networks began using a new phrase, the Reese rule. It became shorthand for the league's new zero-tolerance stance on betting and game manipulation. Every coach, every player, every analyst referenced it. The WNBA even used it in its updated code of conduct. The Reese rule. Any action that undermines the integrity of the game will result in immediate lifetime suspension. Her name, once printed on jerseys, now lived in the rulebook as a warning. Sponsors demanded new transparency agreements. The league hired independent investigators to monitor live betting fluctuations. Players had to sign yearly integrity declarations. No one questioned why. Everyone remembered how fast it all fell apart. Angel Reese had shown them how envy could turn into a scandal large enough to stain an entire league. The WNBA implemented new systems, mandatory integrity audits, player behavior reviews, and cross-checks with betting data platforms. Every suspicious play triggered an instant review. Angel Reese's mistakes had rebuilt the league's entire structure. Her scandal became the foundation of reform.